We're at the Calvary Baptist Church here in Muleshoe, and we're visiting with KaLynn Coffman. And KaLynn, you're here visiting your parents, and who are they?
Jeff and Judy Coffman.
And so, have you ever lived in Muleshoe?
Absolutely. I lived here for about 13 years.
Oh. And so, did you go to school in Muleshoe?
I did. I started in junior high and graduated from here
What year did you graduate?
in 2004.
2004. And after graduating from Muleshoe High School, what did you do, KaLynn Coffman?
Well, I just worked for a couple of years, and then after that I went to undergrad in Arlington at Arlington Baptist College, and then after that I decided to get a master's degree in New York.
And where are you going to school?
It's a sister school through Biola University and through a company called Chosen People Ministries. And the school there is called the Charles Feinberg Center. And it's a Master's of Divinity degree in Messianic Jewish Studies.
Oh my goodness. Now, how were you led into that particular area?
It's an interesting story. I had a professor in undergrad, Amy, and
Here in Texas.
Yes, in Texas. And she used to work for Chosen People Ministries. And in 2011, a group from our undergrad, we took a trip up to New York. And one day we spent with Chosen People Ministries. And ever since then, I just felt called to go up there and minister with the people of the greater New York area.
Now, so who do you really emphasize to minister to there in New York?
I really want to work within the Jewish communities.
Now, that's quite a challenge, I would think.
It most definitely can be.
I'm sure. How long have you been there in New York?
Well, I moved there in August of 2012, so nearly 2 years.
And so, what is the biggest challenge from a girl from Muleshoe living in the Big Apple?
Oh man, it definitely took some adjusting. Moving from Muleshoe to New York, it's like night and day. There's a huge difference. It probably, not lying, probably took me about a year to adjust just to the city life from the country life, just learning how to get around without a car and how to navigate the subways, getting lost in the worst areas possible. And so,
You really did get lost in the worst areas?
oh, of course, but that's part of the, I guess, the charm of New York. It was great to get out there and explore and meet new people. So, but it's really grown on me. I've gotten adjusted to it, and I really like living up there now.
Do you really?
I do.
And so, tell me about Chosen People. Now, what is their emphasis on?
Well, Chosen People Ministries, they have Jewish people and Christian people like me, the Gentiles, who reach out to the Jewish community who are not yet believers in Jesus. We believe that Jesus is Messiah, and we try to share with them the gospel of Jesus.
How do you do that? Do you knock on doors, or do you have services, or do you go into certain meetings? What's the scheme of it?
Well, we just try and do some street evangelism. We'll pass out tracts. My personal favorite is to do surveys, and we just walk up to people and we'll just start asking them questions.
On the street?
Mm-hmm. Yes. In New York, you don't really do door-to-door ministry like you could in Muleshoe because you don't know who would be knocking at your door, so you don't normally want to answer it if they do that. And so that's how we do most of it. We do ministry on the street. We do social media ministries through Facebook, and we have forums where people will come and just talk, and we'll just try and create conversations and form friendships with them.
Well, now, how do you get people to attend those forums?
Well, usually most of them know about our Facebook pages, and so through that, we'll tell them if you want to know more about the topic we're talking about, you can come visit our forum page, and that's how they know about it.
And so what are some of the topics in the forums you discuss?
Well, I'm not the main one who works on the forums. I like to go through them and read them a little bit. They talk about the Trinity because the Jewish people do not believe in the Trinity. Sure. And we try and just show them the prophecies of Jesus through the Old Testament, or what they would call the Tanakh.
And so, just play like I'm Jewish, and play like I don't know anything about Jesus Christ. So talk to me. what would you say to me? I've just met you. I'm Megan Reynolds.
Well, hi, I'm KaLynn. It's nice to meet you.
KaLynn who?
KaLynn Coffman.
Okay, go on.
And what I would do, I would just try and talk to you, see if you grew up in a very Orthodox home or a very...
Oh, that's a good question. Explain an Orthodox Jew and a Jew.
Okay, well, there are many different sects of Judaism. You've got your Orthodox Jewish people, your conservative Jewish people, Reformed, Reconstructionist, and there are many more of other than that.
I'm going to say I'm an Orthodox Jew.
Okay,
just play like.
An Orthodox Jew, you had to pick the tricky one, huh? So what I would do with you is I would just say, have you ever read anything from the prophet Isaiah?
No.
No, okay. Well, then I would take you through Isaiah 53, which is one of the biggest prophecies pointing straight towards Jesus in the Old Testament. And most Jewish people have not read this passage before. And so when they read it, it really gets them to thinking. Sometimes they say, the passage is speaking about Israel, when in fact the passage is really speaking about Jesus and prophesying his death on the cross.
Go on.
And if you were to ask any questions, I would just do my best to be able to answer them. I might point you to some other.
Well, why do you believe in Jesus?
Well, I believe that he fulfilled all of the prophecies in the Old Testament. And because of what he did on the cross for us,
Well, what did he do on the cross for us? I don't know.
Well, Jesus, he was our perfect sacrifice, and he died on the cross for us and rose again 3 days later, so that way, and because I have total...
He really rose?
He did. He absolutely did. And we have so many, through the disciples, so many eyewitness accounts that prove that Jesus died, and we have all kinds of old literature that talk about it. So that's how I have complete and utter faith that he did that and that he's in heaven reigning over all of us.
And so have you had conversations like you just had with me there with Jewish people?
Absolutely. On the sometimes they're more willing to talk. Sometimes they don't have time, of course, just like anybody would.
On the street you're talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, New York has a very different feel than here, and people are willing to stop and talk about their beliefs. Really? So my favorite is...
I don't think they would here, and even in Lubbock or Dallas.
Yeah, not really. And because people here travel by car most of the time, you can't really just stop them. Whereas in New York, most people walk. So during the weekends or evenings, we'll go to the parks where they're sitting and relaxing, and we'll just start conversations with them. And I like to start by asking them first, well, what do you believe? And so no matter what they tell me, I'm just like, very interesting. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. And after that, they're generally willing to listen to what I believe. And so that's how I share with them.
Right. That's a wonderful idea, to listen to them. Don't you think our time is one of the most important things that we have, just sharing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so have you been a Christian yourself all your life?
Well, I grew up in the church. My dad's a pastor, and I came to faith at 15 years old. And ever since then, I just felt called into ministry. I didn't know what. And it was when I was about maybe 22, 23 that I felt called into going into full-time ministry. And that's how I ended up in New York.
And so now, how many... just Jewish people do you think there really are in the area that you are concerned with right now?
Oh, hundreds and hundreds of thousands. It's other than Israel, it's got the highest population of Jewish people in the world.
Is that right? I was not aware of that. And so tell me about little ones. They say it's so much easier to minister to a little child when their heart is so ready to receive. Do you have any ministries for little children?
Primarily when it comes to the children, their parents have to be open to them talking with us. And most of the time the parents would be believers, and that's when we have ministries for them, because we don't want to just make the parents completely angry and talk to their children without their consent. Absolutely. So, yes. So we have ministries through our Messianic congregations that work with the children.
Have you ever really felt like that you were afraid in New York, or you maybe feared for your life? Have you ever been in danger?
No, I've never felt scared at all. Even when I would get lost in the maybe not the best of neighborhoods, I never felt threatened. And maybe I was just completely oblivious, but I never felt threatened. I felt completely safe. So, yeah, it was never an issue for me anyways.
And so now where do you live? And do you live in a dormitory, or do you live in an apartment, or where?
I live in an apartment building.
And where?
In Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn. Now tell us about Brooklyn. What's the difference from Brooklyn and right here, this neighborhood that we're in right now at Richland Hills in Muleshoe?
Well, for one, it smells much better here. And two, where I live, it's very residential. So you may have apartment buildings that are maybe 5-6 stories high and some 2-story houses. So it doesn't look too much different from here. It's very much more compact. You don't have big yards at all. You have very small yards if you have one at all. And the people aren't, sometimes they're not as friendly, but sometimes you meet some very friendly, very open people there. And it's just got its different charm to it. It took a while, but I really like Brooklyn.
Well, that's wonderful, because I think you have to really like and actually love people that you minister to, or you can't reach them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So would you ever come back to Texas?
If the Lord called me here, I would.
Okay. We'll have to talk to him about that, won't we, Jeff? So now when you graduate, will you still be in this same area working, or what do you think you will be doing?
And unless the Lord calls me elsewhere, I'll probably continue to stay there and minister among the people of Brooklyn.
And what do you like least about New York?
The smell.
And what do you like most about it?
Oh, I could go on and on. It's got its own just unique charm. You've got everything there, everything you could possibly imagine. Everything's open all the time, so anytime you're out and about, there's always something to do, new people to meet, people from all over the world. You have every single culture in New York, and so you never get bored. There's always something there for anybody who goes.
And what do you think about, do you know your next door neighbor in your apartment building?
Well, some of them I do because they're in the same program I'm in, but not really. I recognize them, but to know their name or who they are, not really.
What they do or anything. And so tell me about one of the really successful ministries you personally have been involved with the Jewish people.
Well, I would say quite a few of them, and not because of me. It's completely the Lord working through me. Walking out and passing out tracts. I've had people stop me, and we've had...
Now, let's go back to tracts. Mm-hmm. Explain what a tract is.
A tract is just a small piece of paper. Maybe sometimes it'll unfold, and it'll just have different, it'll present the gospel in different ways. And we try and correlate it to the Jewish culture, and that way make it interesting and fun for them to read, and maybe have them think about Jesus in a different way. Maybe approach it in a different way than what they're used to. And so I would just pass out this literature, these tracts, and people would come and talk to me and ask me questions about it. And that's when I was able to tell them what I believed. And they were even willing to go out to dinner with me or out to coffee and talk more about it. Mm-hmm. So that's been really wonderful to have those experiences.
And so encouraging, I know.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, is there anything that you miss about Muleshoe?
Oh, good Mexican food. I love Leal's.
No, you can't find anything like that in New York City. Well, thank you so much, and God bless you and your ministry. And it's been very interesting to find out that the world is bigger than Muleshoe.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Megan.
We've been talking with KaLynn Coffman. She's the daughter of Jeff and Judy Coffman of Muleshoe, a Muleshoe High School graduate, and she lives in New York City, and she is going to college to get her, would it be master's?
A Master's of Divinity.
Master's of Divinity degree, and she also works with a very important community, the Jewish community in New York City, or Jews from wherever they come from.